So here are my high net worth clients with all these assets with the state auto minimum. Are you fluffing kidding me? Do you hear me right now? You want to get me heated?
People haven't written down what they want to do, how they're going to get there, how much it's going to cost, the timeline, and they're just floating.
I mean, in all seriousness, I think adults stop dreaming.
Ooh.
I do. I think you get to a point and you're like, well, this is what I'm going to earn, so this is my life, and they get busy or they just stop dreaming. When you're kids, you dream all the time.
When someone is unhappy and not willing to let themselves get there, this is getting very deep.
Money is so deep. I keep saying this on our episodes. They just go here because we get into these conversations. This is really what comes over our desk on a weekly basis.
That's tough for a business owner. You never know when it's going to be a feast or famine season, so you hold that cash and you hold on to too much.
That's why they should.
The world of financial planning is really, really big. We see people trying to do all these things themselves. They try and do their taxes, their insurance, their retirement planning, their estate planning, their everyday budgets. You cannot do it all. We're going to tell you the biggest mistakes that we see in financial plans and how to avoid them. My name is Dave Grant. My co-host is Heather Townsend. Welcome back to another episode of Playbook of the Wealthy. We're going to talk about the top 5 mistakes we see in DIY financial plans. So before I start and before Heather kicks off as well, let's dive in.
The number one thing I see is money. No, everything is fragmented. It is disjointed. There is money over here. There is cash sitting over here. There are insurance tied to not even knowing what to protect without the right limits. I mean, it's like it has no purpose. It's not around one whole goal. It's just messy.
Yeah.
That's what I see. It's not optimized.
Okay. So if we were putting a title to this.
Oh, I know you. Okay. I know where you're going.
We like titles. Our audience likes titles. They like the segments. I'm going to say it's going to be poorly designed or even non-existent goals.
Okay, so people have no goals. The money has no goals. Yeah.
It's got no direction. People haven't written down what they want to do, how they're going to get there, how much it's going to cost, the timeline, and they're just floating. Got to enunciate.
So a few weeks ago, I had a really cool meeting with some advisors, and one of my buddies, who's a financial advisor, one of his ultra high net worth clients, he was like, I want you guys to review what I've done for this client, and I want you to poke holes in it. How would you pitch my client and take my client away from me? Brilliant, right? I said to my friend, I was like, if the client knew that you were doing this, I would feel so well cared for. Like he literally wasn't doing this like, I don't want to lose a client. It's, what am I missing? I want to be the best.
Yeah.
You know what I said to my friend? I said, I feel really bad for you because the client didn't really give them goals. And if he did get goals, they were so drastically the opposite of each other. Like, I want to have $100 million, for example, but I don't want to leave inheritance. Why do you want $100 million?
Yeah.
Like, I literally said to my friend, I was like, my comment back to you is you need to push harder on this client to get goals.
Sure.
You can't plan. You can't create a good plan. No wonder why you feel so fragmented and you're asking all of us. And that's what it came down to. And we pretty much all came back to saying the same thing. And there are like CFAs on this, like people that are investment, like all they do is specialize in creating investment portfolios. They're same, like can't do anything. There's no goals.
So let's take it down to like the viewer's level. I'll use a personal example. So a badly designed goal is I'm going to remodel my house. Period. That's it. That's all you have.
I have so many questions for you.
I know.
How much? When?
What part of the house? Like all of these questions.
Yes.
And so when I see someone come in the office and they're like, they give me that goal, I'm like, you're not remodeling your house. You have no parameters around the goal. It's not going to work because it's so loose. So I sat down with Sarah, my wife, this weekend, and we have a list of things we want to do to our house. And I warned her ahead of time, like, let's sit down and talk about this. And she's like, oh no.
The spouse of a financial advisor.
But then it came down to, okay, here's how much we think it's going to cost. Here's the timeline. What order do you want to go in? When are we going to do it? Because if we're going to tear apart a kitchen, when's optimal to do that? We need a list of contractors. We need to figure out all of that list of things. Where's the money going to come from? That's probably one of the biggest ones. But then we made a decision together as a couple of, here's exactly how this project's going to work and how it's going to cost and the timeline and who we're going to use. And now we're ready to go.
These sound like SMART goals.
They are SMART goals. Nice callback to whatever episode number that was.
I don't remember what episode that was. That's why I got my registered life planning designation, actually, is because I don't like planning if I don't have goals.
Mm-hmm.
If something doesn't light up a client, or I don't know what you're trying to do and you just want to sit on a pile of money, I can't plan. I mean, I guess you can give me a number and I can run a model and just tell you if you're going to run out of money or not. That
Sure.
gives me absolutely no fluffing energy. I need goals. I want to know what you want. I want to know what you want from your money. And then the plan gets really fun.
And I think that comes down to people, even if it's not like a house remodel, if they're saying, okay, we're going to retire. And then we go into our spiel of, okay, when, what are you going to do? How much is that going to cost? What's your bucket list? We're going to go through that whole process. I worked with someone a while ago. No matter how much I pushed, it was, I don't know. And I kept pushing, and it was going to be, I think I'm going to read in retirement.
I don't think I attract those people. I think they would be terrified.
I don't work with them anymore.
Oh, that would be really hard.
But it was tough.
It is. That's really hard. That's really hard for me.
Because even if I tried to go through that conversation of, oh, well, where are you going to do that?
The beach, right? No?
It was the beach. And I was like,
Great.
where?
Yeah.
What beach would you like? Are you thinking East Coast? They hadn't planned it out. It was nothing. But then if you don't have that planned out goal, retirement never happens. Because there's nothing to retire to. It's just empty. All right, let's get off that soapbox there.
No, but I mean, in all seriousness, to go back to this, I think adults stop dreaming.
Ooh.
I do. I think you get to a point you're like, well, this is what I'm going to earn. So this is my life. And they get busy, or they just stop dreaming. When you're kids, you dream all the time. I know it doesn't fly when you're in my world. Dreams come back.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
All right, let's talk about investments in these bad financial plans. They are poorly designed.
Oh, okay. My energy is starting to get up because I have some.
You've adjusted in your seat. That volume has gone up. The pitch has gone up. Let's go.
Because there are a few things I see almost every time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so poorly designed portfolio.
So our clients are very different. I have a lot of executive clients, W-2 in the corporate world. The frequent thing I see is that they have the majority of their money in a 401k.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll come in and be like, okay, great. I have all my money set up for retirement. It's all in my 401k. I'm like, cool. What happens if you retire at 58? You can only access that 401k money efficiently at 59 and a half. But then that kind of stops them in their tracks. I'm like, didn't think about that. I'm like, I know, because you haven't planned this out properly. So it's not, okay, I'm going to retire next year and I'm going to start planning my portfolio. No. 30s, 25, plan out what your portfolio is going to be, even though it's tiny at this point, and make sure it's spread out across all these different types of accounts. We've gone down that road before, but it's got to be different.
Yeah, I think that is interesting because most of my clients that come to me that are retired or about to retire have their money spread out outside of 401ks.
So lucky.
I do think it's interesting though.
Yeah.
And I have no idea why. I guess it's just, I think that goes to show though why being in the corporate America, the 401k does work in the sense of it forces people to save when it's a percentage taken from your paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
clearly works. Now, there is a downside of it. I'd rather have that downside than you have zero, right? Okay, you have too much in a 401k and not in the others. We can work around that, then you don't have enough. That's harder.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my funniest one that I see.
Okay.
This is why I wiggled in my seat. I review the 401k statements. This is if they do work for corporate America.
Okay.
And I can tell that what they did is they picked whatever funds have produced the highest returns in the last 10 years. And some of them completely and utterly overlap. It would be like putting, I'm going to pick this S&P 500 fund, top 500 stocks of the, and it's with a different fund family. I'm just going to go do the same thing. I mean, they literally overlap each other. And I'm like, oh boy. Every time. I almost know when I'm going to open a 401k statement, I'm going to see that. It's not a well-designed portfolio.
I would go along that 401k route in investments, and I'm going to call out 1 out of 3 people that I work with who choose the target date fund of 2035, and they put some of their money in there. Then they choose 2040, and they put another portion of their money in there. And then they choose 2045, and they put their money in there. And then the last portion of their money goes in the 2050 target date.
What's the point behind the dates? Why would they pick different dates?
It blows my mind. I have no idea. The investments are pretty much the same, slightly a little bit more aggressive the further up you go.
Yeah.
But there's just no design. It's just, okay, I don't want it all in one. Let's spread it around different target date funds. And then when you open up the hood on what those target date funds are, you find out they're kind of the same. They're slightly a little bit more aggressive you go up, but they're all the same funds.
Okay, no. Mine is, my clients will pick 2 different target date funds, and then there'll be all these other funds that have produced. So you'll have some target date funds, and then you'll have funds that are already in the target date funds. That's what I see a lot. All right, we could keep going. The other thing I would say is lack of diversification. I see that a lot. Very, very U.S. heavy weighted.
Yes.
Great. That's a great start. But when you're getting to this wealth level, you got to diversify and just, okay, S&P 500 or my company stock or, yeah, right.
It's funny talking about getting to this wealth level. I think when people start to have more and more money, they start to diversify who manages it. So I've seen people come in and they have 2 advisors managing half of, one half manages one half and the other manages the other half of their portfolio.
That does not work well.
It doesn't.
No, that works.
And people come in and say, well, he has a different approach and he likes to do this type of thing. And I just let them run. And then they pretty much have an identical approach to each other, even though what they're saying they're doing different. So you're essentially paying people to do the same thing. Very poor tax diversification.
Yeah, you can't optimize that, and you can't do it at a whole level of portfolio. No.
So you'd have some advisors who say, I design portfolios this way. I like dividends, for example. They're building a portfolio. They haven't seen your tax return. And it'll be, okay, great. We've got all these dividends coming in. We're going to get nerdy, sorry. They're ordinary dividends, so they're taxed at the highest tax rate possible that you find yourself in. Your portfolio should never have been designed that way.
Not if you're in the 37% tax bracket. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So it's, in some people's minds, it's, okay, this is too much for me to do myself. Let me pick 2 people just to get some diversification and approach. It multiplies the mess most of the time.
The other thing I see on poorly designed portfolio is I see a lot of cash drag. Now, granted, probably not for your clients, because, corporate America, them putting money into a 401k, they're not picking cash as the investment. Let's hope not. But my clients that have been trying to do this on their own, or some doing it, some used to, had a previous advisor over here, they'll have their Roth IRAs, they'll have contributed, but they wouldn't have invested it. Or they keep forgetting that they're transferring to their brokerage account every month, but it's not getting invested, something like that. Yeah. Or my business owner clients, they sometimes hold on to too much cash. So I have a lot of cash drag is one of my issues.
That's tough for a business owner. You never know when it's going to be a feast or famine season, so you hold that cash and you hold on to too much.
That's why they should listen to our uneven cash flow podcast episode. Oh, did I just get brownie points for that?
Can you name the episode number?
No, I can absolutely not.
You can get half a brownie point.
Okay. All right. The other one, I see this. It is very rare that I'm not making changes on a new client in insurance. Bad insurance coverage.
I think insurance is hard. There's so many different types of insurance. I'm going to be the nerd and try and name them all.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, to our listeners.
I want to see your reaction.
Oh, I feel bad for them. All right, go ahead.
I'm not. Okay. But when you try and figure out, okay, if I've got all my insurances at work and then everything covering my cars and my homes.
Here you go with your execs again.
It's just, there's a lot that you have to figure out. Am I doing this right? Is it properly designed?
Is it optimized?
There's so much.
For my wealth level.
And if this is not your job, Like if your job is doing something completely different, you should not be expected to know what the right insurance is for every side.
All right, how about this? You're making $700,000, $800,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
You go review your new client's auto insurance and you see 15, 30, 15.
Okay, have you seen that?
Or maybe it's 15, 30, 20, whatever. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. So that's probably our listeners are like, what is she talking about? But what I'm talking about is that's like 15,000 per accident or per car.
Individual.
Per individual. And then 30,000 per accident is someone's auto insurance coverage. So basically the states, and they differ, have different minimum. You have to have auto insurance and you have to have this minimum. So here are my high net worth clients with all these assets with the state auto minimum. Are you fluffing kidding me? Do you hear me right now? You want to get me heated? Like, no, let's pay, I don't know, $100 more a year to like, I don't know, for 200,000 more of coverage. Like, are you fluffing kidding me?
You went up quite an octave there. That was, dogs were reacting right then. Wow.
I know, but it's just like such unnecessary risk, right? I just think the risk for the price increase, that's just a no-go.
I think explaining this to when people come in my office is they come in and they're heated of, we need to change our investments. We need to change our retirement approach. I'm like, that's cool. We're going to take this to sports analogies. That's offense. We got to play defense first.
Ooh, I like it with football. Yeah, I'm going to use that. We got to play defense. If that's true.
You cannot use a sports analogy.
Why?
Because you didn't know who the Chicago Bears were the last time we spoke about sports.
Right, they were football, right?
You guessed that correct last time and you're correct this time.
Okay, good. Yeah. I was more a college football. I should have told you that than pro. I knew divisions in college football. So, wow. I didn't get any brownie points for that. Divisions?
Well, it depends what division.
D1.
SEC, Big 10, Big 12.
They moved them around, but I grew up going to the Cal Bear games.
Okay.
Defense. I like defense. So yes,
we're talking sports. Yeah.
So I think to put this now in a better way, we said bad insurance coverage. I want to be like bad defense.
Mm-hmm.
They have bad defense.
Yeah. It's a 120-pound lineman who is 5'4", going up against a 6'6", 330-pound lineman. Doesn't work.
No.
We got to get trampled every time.
Yeah.
When people are either designing it properly or they have not looked at it in a long time. So I've had people come in and say, okay, here's my life insurance and my disability insurance through work, or if I bought it separately in the market. And then I'm like, when did you buy this? Like, what was your salary level when you bought this? And they're like, oh, I bought it 10 years ago. Like my salary was $100,000. Now I'm earning 400. That's a gap. Mm-hmm. Like you have to keep looking at this stuff to figure out, does this still match my personal situation? And for the most time, it will not. A lot of times in insurances, I have this in my disability insurance, there's I don't know what they call it, but it increases incrementally.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then they will then come back and say, probably like every 2 years, have you had a big change in your income? Let's kind of do another mini application and let's see if we need to increase it or if we can increase it. But if you're not actively looking at that, your insurance is just going to be a lot more separate from where it needs to be in your situation.
My high net worth individuals, a lot of them don't have umbrella, so I instantly add that.
Mm-hmm. What's umbrella?
So umbrella coverage, I think we've explained on previous podcast episodes, but basically if your auto or home is not enough and someone's coming to sue you,
mm-hmm.
the umbrella blankets over it. So normally they're in million increments, so 1 million is a start. It will blanket over and cover the rest. So you hit a McLaren, that's my best example.
Yeah.
You only have 200 for the accident. The McLaren was worth 400. Here comes the umbrella to cover the remaining, right? A lot of my business owner clients, it gets really fascinating in insurance. A lot of them don't like to pay for health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, nope, we're going to get health insurance. And then I don't care if it's the minimum, like we can go do catastrophic, but we got to have health insurance. Disability, they don't think about.
Right.
And then the harder one, just because people don't like talking about death, as we know, life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
They're making a lot of money and they have assets, but what happens if you're the main income earner? What are you doing with that business? Who's going to run that bit? Right. Like there's all these conversations. So that is a bigger conversation, is the defense. So it's normally not around, it's not updated to where they are when they come into my office, I will say.
What's your favorite style of defense? Are you cover two? Are you man to man? What'd you like to do?
Now, I have no idea what you were talking about anymore. All right.
Just thought I'd take it to the next level.
Those must have been types of plays.
Yeah, they were coverages.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Look at you, feigning ignorance. You know what we're talking about.
Okay.
All right, let's go on to number 4. We're talking about outdated approaches in financial planning.
Mm-hmm.
Broad topic area,
Very broad.
but things change all the time. And it's across every area in financial planning. So I think if you're trying to do it yourself and you're not updating yourself with IRS code, state inheritance laws, 529 savings accounts and how they change, that it's a lot to keep up. We do it for a full-time job. And sometimes we don't catch everything because we talk to each other and we're like, didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm constantly learning something.
And if it's not your job to do it and you're trying to do it for yourself, you're never going to catch everything. And your situation's just it will become outdated because you cannot do this all.
Even my clients that come from other advisors, they're not keeping up either. I mean, I guess that's maybe why they come to me, is they know something's lacking, but
Sure.
like backdoor Roths, a lot of people miss those. Okay, easy change, right?
Sure.
And how to do it correctly and what form to file, like that. A lot of that gets missed, and oh dear gosh, people try and do that on their own. I see that.
Yes. One thing that's come along recently is 529 plans. So there was law changes a couple of years ago that said if you have a 529 plan, you've got money left in it, you can, and assuming you meet some rules, you can move some of that into a Roth IRA.
Yeah, the 529, I had to memorize this. The 529 has to be 15 years old is the weird.
So I've seen people who are coming in and saying, okay, we're done paying for college, we want that money back. I'm like, well, let's explore this because you could still get a lot of bang for your buck without taking that money out, paying the penalty and the taxes on some of it. We could do something different. And they're like, didn't know about that. I'm like, that's why I'm here. There's, again, lots of different things that change year to year.
Tax law alone, I feel like, is constantly changing. The other thing that I see is people being in outdated investments that aren't tax efficient, like still being in mutual funds in their brokerage that if you're seeing huge capital gain distributions on your 1099s, you're in outdated investments for tax efficiency. I just had to get a client out of that again.
I was doing someone's tax return for the first time this year, and I was going through their 1099. And, the 1099s I'm doing for clients, it's, you've got the first couple of line items, and then it's, the qualified distributions, whatever that thing is for capital gains distributions from funds, they're non-existent on mine. Like it's zero.
Because we have ETFs.
Yeah. And so I saw it on someone, so I'm like, all right.
I need to look into this. What's going on?
That's weird. Haven't seen that in a long time in mine. You're using a different advisor. So yeah, those things, again, if you're not up to date, you're costing yourself money.
Yes.
I was having lunch with an advisor recently, and we're both in Illinois.
Okay.
And so we were talking about estate tax law. It was a fascinating lunch.
I'm sure everyone would want to.
Oh my goodness. And so we were talking about, the federal estate tax limit that you can leave to someone who is not your spouse has been increasing, and there's been threats that it's going to decrease. Illinois has kept it at a static level for years, and they've never changed it.
And so what we're talking about, listeners, is if you died right now, whoever's going to inherit it, whether they pay tax on that or not, is basically in the simplest way I can say.
Yeah.
So that's what you guys were talking over lunch.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was hashtag nerd lunch.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was, if you're dying in Illinois, you're leaving more than $4 million, that person is going to pay taxes on it. And he was like, well, hold on. I was like, what? He's like, if you leave $4,001,001, you'll pay the tax rate on $4,001, not just the dollar that goes over the limit.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, I have to go back to my estate planning books to make sure that that's accurate. But that's where people are going to get tripped up. If they're saying, well, it's fine if it's $4,001 or whatever the limit's going to be in your state, they're just going to pay tax on that little bit that goes over. Well, if you're not aware of the tax law in your state, you could be costing that person you're leaving the money to, your heir, a lot of money in taxes that you could have easily avoided.
Okay. Dave and I have already agreed we're going to do a podcast episode. I can't wait till the listeners how you guys are going to feel about this, but we're actually going to do one on estate tax because there are things that we realize we're dealing with in our clients' lives right now. This is becoming a thing.
Number 5. This one is not a technical mistake that I see, but it's when people come to my office and they're saying, okay, here's the financial plan we've done for ourselves. There's no excitement there.
This is why I'm an RLP. This is why I'm registered life planner. That literally is I can't stand that.
So I think if we go back to our first point, which was, the poorly designed or even non-existent goals, that's an easy fix. You can start talking about conversations, what you want to do. It's the people who come in and they are just unfulfilled.
So I think you need to describe what is the difference between 1 and 5. So 1 is you don't have goals. Okay, we could solve that. We find goals. But your 5 here is you're unfulfilled.
So I'm seeing people come in and they're not happy with their job.
Oh,
they're like, okay, so that I'm not getting excitement from that. I'm like, okay, well, what would you like to do in retirement? They're trying to figure out goals. Nothing is making them excited. So they are unfulfilled in a job. They're not excited to go into retirement, which is the next phase. They're not sure what they want to do if they were to change jobs because they're not excited about anything. So it doesn't allow them to get the most use out of their money. It's more of a psychological issue versus a money issue.
Okay. So it's like, number 1 is you have no goals attached to your money. Number 5 is you're just an unfulfilled human.
Yeah. And money's not going to fix it.
So you're unhappy. You are, money can't solve that. Money can help though.
The way that it gets dangerous is when people try to use money to fix it.
I think in this case, people say money can't buy happiness. I don't actually agree with that. I think money is a tool, and I think if used in the right way, it can. So let's say that this person does have money and they're unfulfilled. If they want to do something about it, money will be a great tool to have. For example, you can go to therapy, you can hire a coach, you can go do something wildly out of your comfort zone to see what happens. I don't know, go live with, the monks or something up in
yeah.
I don't know anything, but normally something will stir something, right? If you have money in a tool and you go try to find what that fulfillment is, if you don't have money as a tool, I think it's harder.
It's more that case of people aren't seeing the potential that they have in their working life and what retirement could look like. If it's a therapy thing they have to get through, that's fine, but there's a lot of life that you've got here. And if you've been saving money, that's great. There's a lot of life you can pursue here. But when someone is unhappy and not willing to let themselves get there, this is getting very deep. But
money is so deep. I keep saying this on our episodes. They just go here because we get into these conversations. This is really what comes over our desk on a weekly basis.
I think the most dangerous time I've seen it is when someone is approaching retirement and it's not I don't have any goals for retirement. It's I'm not happy now and I'm not going to be happy in retirement. And now you have nothing to do.
Oh, you're even more unhappy.
Yeah. And now you've got a lot of time and you're kind of going to stew in it. And it's a downhill slope. Studies have looked at people like this where it ends up being mental issues, physical issues, declining health, and you eventually die far sooner than you should have done.
These are specific questions I ask clients to try to pull that out. I'm yet to not pull out of a goal out of a client. Please, no one hear this and now try to come and be a client and ruin my track record here, because that will just probably take the light out of me for a second. But that would be really hard. And I think I'm open to that. I think people can be in that position. I'm happy to help someone if they want to help themselves. If they don't want to help themselves and they just want to be unfulfilled with a pile of money and be miserable, I don't want to work with you.
Well, one thing that I think people can say is, okay, you were talking about 5 mistakes in DIY financial plans. How does that relate to a DIY financial plan? Well, if you don't have anyone who is your sounding board in your financial plan, you're never going to realize that that's a problem, or you're never going to know how to fix it.
Yeah, because we're coming to ask for goals. That's who you and I, what are you doing? What are you doing in retirement? What?
If we see someone who's depressed, it's going to be, this isn't going to work. Let's go fix you.
Yeah. Okay.
Bow it up.
If you don't have goals, your money has no energy, no purpose, and it's hard to make a plan. Money, equals energy. I truly believe that. It needs a purpose and can do so many things. 2, sitting on a ton of cash, scared to do anything with it. You need a plan or you need accountability. Review your insurance, estate plans, trust account titling. Oh, we missed that one on things really quick. Their estate documents are never titled correctly most of the time. Their accounts. All right, moving on. Investment allocation, make sure you match where it should be. If you don't want to do any of this, if this is just like, then you need to hire the expert. You need that accountability partner. That's when you definitely need a financial planner. And even if you can't pay someone ongoing, then there's financial planners that do project and hourly work. Mm-hmm. So don't let that be an excuse.
All right, before we move on, if you have seen yourself in this situation and you're realizing, okay, I need to do something different, then we've done our job. To reward us for doing our job, if you can leave us a like, a comment, subscribe, follow if you're listening on an audio platform, or send it to the neighbor down the street who you really admire. Anyway, we're moving on to the next section of our podcast. It is called What Would You Do?
I will be a DIYer until I die, despite good planners like both of you being around. Why, thank you. How would you recommend I make sure my plan is accurate and up to date? AI.
Yeah, the real answer, this is your one and only hobby. Yeah. There's so much. I think make your situation simple. Have the least amount of accounts you can have. Try and keep your tax situation simple.
Wow.
Because if you're doing this by yourself, the more complexity you have, the more mistakes you're going to make.
Start with AI, but don't trust it. It gets it wrong. I'm still seeing that, especially tax laws. I would actually recommend, fine, if you're a DIYer, pay for an hourly or project-based review every few years.
That's a good idea.
Like the cost of you doing it wrong is higher than the cost of paying an hourly or project-based fee every few years. If you have to be a DIYer, that's your insurance policy. That's your defense.
Yeah.
Like just pay someone just for a checkup every few years.
I always tell people you want to retire well once. Mm-hmm. You don't want to retire twice or three times.
Yeah. There's no loans for retirement.
Question number 2. I'm nearing retirement and trying to convince my husband that we need an advisor to help us navigate this transition successfully. What can I tell him that will help?
I'd say you can always fire your advisor. I actually say that in my prospect meetings. Mm-hmm. I don't like the term prospect, but potentially new client meetings. Okay. I say, you know what? In my agreement, you're not locked in. It's like an at-will agreement. I can fire you at any time. You can fire me. This is how it should be. Yeah. So try it out. Because again, going back to the first one, if you get it wrong, the downside, it could be very, very expensive. So just tell your husband, let's try it out. And if you end up not liking it, then we'll stop.
Yeah.
Compromise.
As a husband, I like visual things. So if I like analogies. So if my wife had to come to me and be like, I want to hire another financial advisor, I'd be mortally offended that she would want anyone else other than me to be her financial advisor, but let's leave that. But I think it's a case of, okay, if I want to learn how to play golf, am I going to build my own golf clubs? No, I'm going to go buy a set of golf clubs that have been expertly made. If I go and build a car, am I going to build a sports car? No, I'm not. I'm probably going to go build a Jeep that's easy to repair and put together, and it might not be reliable, but if I'm going to go fast, I want something that someone else has built and is safe.
Okay.
So if you take that into the financial advisor analogy, if you want your situation well designed and really fine-tuned going into the future, you probably want an expert to do it.
I worked with an advisor to design a plan, and I'm now DIYing the plan myself. Is there a time to go back to get this plan reviewed? And if so, what timing works? That's a good question.
It is. I actually work with people like this. So this is one of my service models. I don't typically see people coming back every year because there's not really much that has changed dramatically in a year that requires you to go through and review your whole plan again. So I'm either saying, okay, take between 2 to 4 years. That's typically enough time for things to have drifted enough where you probably need to readjust things. Or if you're coming up to a big life event, you need to have this fine-tuned to go through that transition. So if it's retirement or being an empty nester, college, whatever those big events are, that's when you want to go down and have an expert review things and make sure everything's in place.
I agree. I think it's like 2 to 3 years is how often, and especially in our recent tax landscape, we've had the last 5 years, the amount of tax law changes that there have been, it's like a record. Someone was talking about it recently. The thing is about DIYing that's so hard is, are you doing the things? That's what I'd always end on. I have really smart clients. They just don't want to do it themselves, and they need me to be like, well, one, they also don't want to track all the new laws and stuff, but also like they need the accountability. They're busy. And business owners, that's the hardest part. I think with people in corporate America, it's easier, but my business owner clients, there is constantly something changing. Yeah, it's, okay.
All right, we're going into the last section of our podcast. It is called Highlights.
We chose a school for the girls. And it's a really weird feeling. Like,
you've been talking about this for a while. And now it's come to a head. Okay,
so when I chose the girls' preschool, I was pretty sure I was going to send them to this specific private school. This is where they were going to go to school. And then I pulled an audible. I was like, I just want to go check out this one last preschool. And when I walked through, I just knew in my gut this was it.
Okay.
I didn't get this feeling touring all these schools. I got it on one campus, but the school reputation of the campus that I loved, horrible reputation. Can't send my kids there.
How many grades is this? They're starting kindergarten. How far does it go?
It's like kindergarten through 8th is how it goes in. Is that how it goes there in Chicago area?
Sometimes.
Like when we went to school, it was K through 5 and then 6 through 8. Different schools.
They have middle schools where we are.
Okay. Yeah. This is like K through 8. So it's a big decision.
Yeah, it is.
So then I'm like, then this other school, I talked to many clients. This is why I love what we do too. And they were like, Heather, you send them to Cheyenne. This is the school I'm sending them to. It's basically private school for a public school price tag. And then they go to private school for high school because Arizona has really bad schools, by the way. And so I was like, great. Do I like the campus? Not really. But then I might get my win. They might move the campus to the campus that I loved so much. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous campus. That's like literally a 5-minute drive from my house.
Perfect.
So I'm hoping in 2 years, this is what happens. And then it will be my ideal. Cool. But it's like, I don't know. This phase was harder. Maybe it's also like, I remember my elementary school. These are ages I was just like, I'm just not super excited about my school choice. Like I was, I don't know, sending them to preschool and I don't know why.
You're letting your girls go.
And maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's coming. So we chose a school. So big changes are coming. It was a very big decision. And you know what made me feel better about it?
Yeah.
And I also tell clients sometimes, this is not a permanent decision.
No.
That's why I was like, what? This is kindergarten. Right? It's funny when I say it out loud. I'm like, I can switch. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you're talking about that because we are going on college tours in a couple of weeks. So you're starting down there and we're up here.
We are in such different phases. It's fun though. I enjoy it.
And so Eli is very much an engineering math mindset. So we're now figuring out, okay, do we look at the engineering schools that it's just engineering, but then you have to figure out what engineering you want to do. And then we're like, how far do you want to go for school? Do you want to come home? Do you want to go on a plane? Like all of these conversations we're having with a 15/16-year-old because we're doing this early. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know. He says he wants to stay local, which is fine.
Yeah.
And now we have to go look at all the local schools. Local being the states that neighbor us. North, south, east, west.
Oh, so that's what local means.
Oh, yeah.
Not local like community college down the street local. We're talking different state.
Yeah, we're going, this is during spring break. There's going to be a trip to Milwaukee. There's going to be a trip to Iowa for 2 different schools.
Iowa.
They have good engineering schools.
Okay.
There'll be a trip down to University of Illinois. There'll probably be a trip into Indiana at some point to look at other schools. This is what local means in the Midwest.
These are really some fun states.
How dare you?
Iowa? Milwaukee?
Have you ever been to Iowa?
No.
If you're a listener in the Midwest, please feel free to leave a comment about how amazing it is.
You got to
Please do.
remember that I have literally lived, everyone who's listening, on the coasts. That's it. I don't understand the Midwest. You don't probably understand my world either.
I'm disgusted right now.
You know what's going to be funny?
Yes.
We're still going to be doing this podcast. I'm going to be like, Dave, guess where my kids are going to school?
I would love that. University of Missouri, Kentucky.
That's
Like,
going to
we're
happen.
going. Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. All right.
All right. Thank you for listening to this episode of Playbook of the Wealthy. If you want to keep listening to us, we are on every podcast platform. If you want to watch us on video, we are at YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. If you want to look at us on a website, we have one. It is playbookotw.com. There you can send us an email. It is hello@playbookotw.com. You can send us in your questions because we love them. And we'll see you next time.
Toodles.
All opinions expressed by Dave Grant and Heather Townsend are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the views of their respective wealth management firms. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Nothing in this material constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Clients of Retirement Matters and Townsend Financial may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.